Hey everyone, Clio here. I hope you're enjoying your day, and today we are diving into the final week of the month of June, the final full week of the month of June, so week 4 of the Olympic Games readathon and the Make Your Mid-Taker readathon. So in terms of Make Your Mid-Taker, I am more or less completely finished. So I became the goddess that I'm destined to be. I honed a couple of skills, so not too many, but I honed the skill of being a mercenary, I honed some spy skills, and so now I'm going after my father's throne, so I will be completing one final prompt in order to become a queen. For Olympic Games I'm still finishing up the basic prompts, and I hope to actually be able to get some of the advanced prompts out of the way as well. I'll be very happy if I only get to the basic ones, but I am still not entirely sure that I'm going to give up on the advanced ones. So the start of this week I will be continuing in The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. So this is a Middle Eastern inspired fantasy novel. I'm hugely enjoying this one. This is the sequel to The City of Brass, which was the first one which I read in my first reading vlog for this month, so I will link that video down below. I hugely enjoyed that one. I gave it a 5-star rating, so I really enjoyed all of those Middle Eastern inspirations. I really loved 2 out of 3 main characters, and in this one so far I'm really starting to like the third one a lot more as well. So the Kingdom of Copper more or less picks up from the ending of the first book. We kind of have a introductory chapter in which we are kind of taking up from where we left, and then we have a time jump of like 5 years. Now personally I'm not in favor of having time jumps like that, especially not when your characters are kind of going through massive changes in their circumstances and you're then kind of like leaving them alone for 5 years rather than showing how they deal with these changes in their situation. Now I'm going to briefly go into some of the other plans for this week, just as an indication to get you guys watching. But so the Kingdom of Copper is a prompt for the Olympic Games readathon. It's one of my basic prompts, and that is the longest book on my TBR. So this is 609 pages. I am currently, as I said, close to the 400 page mark. And then I only have one more book to finish for the basic prompts for the Olympic Games readathon, and then I could officially say that I've completed that readathon, and that will be King Lear, which is for my prompts to read a book featuring a king. This shouldn't take me too long, which is a good thing because my overall TBR for this month was 13 books. And after I finish the Kingdom of Copper, I still have like 6 to go, but there are quite some short ones in there, so that's why I'm still somewhat optimistic about how far into this TBR I can still get. So King and Lear definitely also still there for the Olympic Games readathon. Then for one of the extra prompts for the Olympic Games readathon, I want to be reading this extremely short one. It's under 100 pages. It's Leon and Juliette by Annejet van der Zijl. It is the book week gift that we get here in Belgium. It looks to me to be quite problematic because it is about a slave-master relationship, and it seems to be romanticizing this sort of this time period, this sort of relationship, the ownership of slaves. So I will have more on for you guys when I actually get around to it. And then the final one that I'll introduce, I still hope to be able to get to more in the weekend, but this is definitely something that I still think is feasible for this weekend, is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This would be my book in order to complete Make Your Mid-Taker and become a queen goddess, and that will be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is for the prompt to reread a favorite book. Alright. Alright, so I finished book 1 for this week. Did I? Yeah, I started this one on Sunday, so yeah, book 1 for this week. So I finished The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. So I'm going to give it 4.5 stars, I think. I still really enjoyed it the way I absolutely enjoyed City of Brass. There's just some slight problems that I have with this one. So as I said before, I had problems with the time jump, but what I've also... It's not necessarily problems that I have for the rest, but there are certain developments in the story that aren't really the developments that I would like to see, that are developments that I find more typical, that I find less interesting. So I think I very much liked the whole sort of dynamic in the first books in terms of the characters, and in the second book I think we are introducing a sort of new villain, new sort of like antagonist into our story. And so if you read this book, there is a certain plot that is being planned throughout this book in very sporadic chapters that we are getting from a certain perspective, and I don't see the added value for that. In terms of the second book at least, this could be one of those, you know, middle book syndrome things where I will like that that particular plot line in the third book. It is possible, but in this book, for example, I definitely didn't like it. And so in terms of like what was actually happening in the other two character lines, there was so much more interesting things happening there, and the intrigue, the plot, the like political scheming that was happening regardless of that secondary plot that was being planned, was so much more interesting in my opinion than the actual plot that ended up taking over the book in the final like 50 pages or something like that. So we'll see what happens in book 3. We already have a very interesting development at the very end of this book that can mean very good things for the rest of the series. But so the 1st of July I've seen the third book in this trilogy is available on Scripts, so definitely going on to my July TBR. And so now for the rest of the evening I'm going to try and start and finish King Lear by Shakespeare. So it is Thursday. I finished King Lear yesterday, but I gotta say I never fully understand Shakespeare. I understand the gist of it, mainly because I also just already knew the story, which was brought back to me when I was like reading the opening of it. So this is King Lear, in case you need some explanation. So Lear is a king who's kind of like reaching an older age in his life, and so he wants to distribute parts of his wealth amongst his daughters, but he kind of challenges them to kind of show their love towards him in exchange for part of his wealth. And so basically the daughters that are there to flatter him, to give him exactly what he wanted to or what he expected to, they end up getting a fortune out of it. But his youngest daughter, and his most caring daughter in reality, she decides that she cannot put in words the amount of love she feels for her father, and so she declines to, she decides not to voice her feelings for him, not to voice how much she loves him, how much she respects him. And then the play kind of goes about showing how the flattering words of his elder daughters are maybe what he was expecting, and maybe what helped them achieve their fortune, but it does not correspond to reality. So it is a sort of more or less about letting actions speak louder than words. That's putting it quite simplistic, of course. So I do enjoy the concept of the story and things like that, but with Shakespeare I'm just always so lost. There's so much happening that I cannot really seem to follow. The language is so difficult to get into. Of course, English isn't my native language, but even if English is your native language, it's obviously a very different English, because it's the English from the 17th century. And so I'm just always somewhat lost. I think that if I'm going to attempt another Shakespeare reading, I'll probably try a comedy next. So I am now back from work, and I have started the shortest book for this month, and that is Lear and Juliette by Annejet van der Zijl. This is a book week gift, so in Belgium and also in the Netherlands we get a book week gift, at least for the Dutch speaking community. This is a book that is commissioned every year for book week, and so usually quality isn't that great. It's always like a very short novella. You get it for free if you purchase a book during the book week. And for this one I also think it's going to be quite problematic, just because this is a book set in Charleston in the 19th century, and we are following a Dutch person who has gone to the US to kind of make a life for himself, make a living for himself, and he falls in love with a black slave. So there's a lot of grounds for problematic storytelling here. There's a lot of possibilities of this becoming a white savior story. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I got this for free, so I'm definitely going to read it. It's also just like 90 pages, but I am currently a third of the way into this one, and they haven't met yet. Like, I don't see how you're going to tackle this subject, which I think needs to be handled in a very nuanced, very careful way, if you're going to be able to handle it correctly. And I don't see how you could do that in 90 pages to begin with. But how are you going to do that if your first 30 pages don't even involve these characters, don't even involve any sort of interaction between these characters? Friday! So I had a productive Friday, as in I did the one thing at work that I'm always postponing, that I do like once every 6 months or something like that, but it took me all day to do it, but I am finished with it. So I do feel happy, but just exhausted. But enough about work. Weekend mode. So I finished this one over lunch. So this is a 95-page book. I started it yesterday. It took me quite a while, considering it's only 95 pages, but this really was so difficult for me to get through. In the afterword, the author is saying that she will write a longer length novel about this subject. So it seems to be more of a sort of like research conclusion that this book ends up being. You know, it's very much just a look at the history of Leon and Juliette, at the social background of that time, and then based off of that research you will then make a real book, a real novel. But that being said, I still didn't enjoy this. I still didn't, because it very much just felt like that. It really just felt like a dry telling of facts, a dry deposition of everything that had happened in these people's lives. So yeah, this very much didn't really suit well with me. And it also meant that while I was expecting to just fly through this one, because I know that I've read past book week gifts in like a couple of hours in the past, I wasn't able to finish it in one go in this case, and so wasn't able to finish it last night, and so I'm a little bit behind on my ideal schedule in order to be able to finish the rest of my TBR. But so now I'm going to jump into The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So I finished The Alchemist yesterday. I think it had more of an impact on me when I was younger, but that is also to do with the style of book it is. It's very much an inspirational, spiritual book, which is something that I liked a lot when I was late teens, early 20s, I think. And the message here one is very simple, very clear. You know, it's all about the pursuit of your dreams, and it's all about, so our main character Santiago is a shepherd in Spain, and one day he dreams that if he goes to the pyramids in Egypt, he will find a treasure there. And so he's kind of pushed on this path, kind of made to believe that this isn't just a dream, this is real, this is an omen of the universe and he should listen to it. And if he learns to listen to the omens in the world, they will help him to achieve his dreams. So it's very much looking at different ways in which the pursuit of our dreams is a difficult path, and it's a path that a lot of people have stepped away from at times. But if you stay true to pursuing of your dreams, then the universe will help you get there. And that's part of my problem with it, because it definitely is very much motivational, inspirational, and only looking at the positive things. It's not looking at the fact that there are definitely a lot of people who go full blast in pursuit of their dreams and don't make it. And so it's a bit too simplistic in that sense, but it's of course not trying to do that. It's very much trying to focus on that message. But so for me personally, in terms of my personal preference, I like for my books to be more deep, a little bit more well-rounded. But I definitely did enjoy it still, and I definitely do want to check out some more Paulo Coelho. I do still have one on my shelf, so that will be my first step. But I do like it, reading it. I don't think it's the best book I've read, and I definitely do think that it is a case of me having read it at the perfect time back then, and now just being a little bit too old, maybe too cynical to fully appreciate this one. And then I still have 3 books for this month, but I'm only going to attempt one. I'm attempting the middle book, not the shortest one, not the longest one, but Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is a book that is a debut novel from 2019. It very much did the round as well. It was very much lauded as a debut, and even within this first chapter I could already kind of sense that I'm already very much liking the narrative. It also uses a lot of text message in it as well. It is supposed to be a sort of black Bridget Jones diaries. It is a black woman in London. Her family came from Jamaica, and she is very much trying to get her life in order. In the first chapter we already see that she's having problems in her relationship. So she's in an interracial relationship. Her boyfriend Tom is white, and this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their struggles, but definitely her family doesn't approve of this relationship. And Tom has kind of asked her to move out, but she's very much still somewhat clinging to this relationship, texting him all the time, wondering whether he's going to come home that night or not. And so interested to see where it goes. I'm reading this one for the Olympic Games readathon. It's an advanced prompt. Don't know the name of the challenge anymore, but the prompt is to read a book with a character that you will dislike. Don't know whether I will dislike it. I'm basing this solely on the fact that I know that it is quite divisive, this book, and part of the reason why a lot of people dislike it is because they dislike the character and the choices that she makes. Yeah. Hey everyone, it is Monday evening, so it's time for me to wrap up this vlog, Buffy agrees. So I will just give you my final update on Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. So I managed to read until page 181 yesterday evening. I've really been enjoying this one. Definitely, if this isn't on your radar yet, put it on your radar. If it was on your radar, start reading it. So as I said, Queenie at the beginning of this novel, she was in a relationship with a white guy, and he has decided that he wanted some distance, and so they moved apart from each other. So she moved out, and so she's kind of having a whole identity crisis as a result. So she's kind of sleeping around a lot. So there's a lot of, by the way, there's also a lot of like graphic sex and like violent sex in this book. But so she's constantly seeking out random guys, more or less, and she's kind of struggling with herself in terms of what she wants. You know, she's seeking out these men, but at the same time she's also pushing them away because she doesn't want certain things, and then in impulse decisions she will decide to sleep with these men. Apart from her very chaotic love life, she also has a problem with her work life as a result of her sex life and her emotional troubles, because she cannot seem to focus well on her job. So she's constantly kind of like struggling to fulfill her obligations, while at the same time also being very motivated to try and bring some of her issues to her publication. She wants to talk about Black Lives Matter, but every single story that she pitches to her boss just kind of says like, yeah, no, that won't fly, and she kind of brings her back to more like superficial topics. So I'm very much enjoying it. It's very much a candid look at Queenie's life. It's very much a troubled character, a character that's very much struggling with self-confidence, with self-destructive behavior, and so I've so far really been enjoying this one, and will happily continue with this one, and we'll definitely be on the lookout for more by Candice Carty-Williams. So yeah, I've definitely enjoyed it a lot, and yeah. You will hear my full thoughts on it in my wrap-up for me. So that means that this week I don't have the full numbers because I didn't count it. I finished Kingdom of Copper. Definitely enjoyed it, just not as much as I enjoyed the first book in this trilogy. Finished King Lear by Shakespeare. Wasn't necessarily my ideal reading experience just because I'm always so lost with Shakespeare. I finished a book week gift, so Leon and Juliette van Annejet to Zijl. Please skip that one. And The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and definitely think that there are a lot of readers out there for which this book would be perfect. For me, it's at this point in time, I'm just a little bit more skeptical, I guess, and so I kind of notice where it's lacking. I can appreciate what it's doing, but I do personally want it to do more than it does. And then 181 pages in Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. So yeah, that's it for me for this reading vlog. So yeah, see you guys for the next